Hello, and welcome to Heroic Stats and Any Heroics podcast. Of course, the only GBHL team led by the person who prioritises his friend's wedding, who he kicked out of the team over the podcast. This week, I'm joined by Her Farmer and James Starch, top tier players providing some competitive legitimacy. Say hello, gents.
Hello, gents.
Hello, gents.
Before we get into the two tournaments we're going to cover this week, what hobby has everyone been up to?
I broke a shield off one of my orc banners because after going for so many times the last couple of tournaments, I was saying, I don't have an orc banner without a shield, even though I'm using one right now, and explaining how it wasn't WYSIWYG, and I thought, why don't I just break the shield off? So there you go. That was my hobby the last week.
Lovely. Is that a shield you'd previously put on to be WYSIWYG?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's my oldest and least well-painted orc banner, so I figured it made sense.
That reminds me of my trick with Warriors of Minas Tirith, which sometimes had swords or sometimes had spears. So I just broke their weapons off, and I said, "Oh, they broke. They were shields. They were spears." Sorry.
There's a number of my Arnor warriors with dewy 3D printed spears who now no longer have spears.
Yeah, those things.
I mean, with them, it's quite easy to know what they have.
Yeah.
It could be war spears, though.
True.
Yeah.
True. So my hobby was trying to finish the Champions of Erebor, which I've been painting, or rather not painting, for the past few months. And now I have a big box of Arnor that's due to be delivered tomorrow, so I need to paint those. I hope that will be faster than...
You go in the traditional green or something a bit spicier?
I think traditional green.
Just spray them all silver and then, give them a little green once over. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I did mine. What hobby have I been doing? I've been staring at my Beornings, trying to find the motivation to finish them and the display board, but struggling. So, bit of a slower week for me. But 2 out of 3 of us did attend tournaments this weekend, so we will get onto those. But before that, as always, a word from our affiliate, 7th City Collectibles. We'll see if I can do as good a job as Stephen, but I'm just going to read the slide. Stockists of all your favourite systems, thousands of second-hand items for TCG and minis, host some of the GBHL's largest events. Use our affiliate link down below to pick up tickets for all their events. They buy your armies. They have a store in Nottingham, and of course, they sell Lorcana. So check them out. Enough shilling, Law. Let's get on to the first tournament of the weekend.
1K subscribers, by the way.
Yeah, congrats.
Well done, lads. You had to get there.
Pretty spicy.
Just me firing shots like I have anything to do with us getting over 1,000 subscribers.
You're the only reason people watch this, Dave.
Yeah, but this isn't the reason this channel has 1,000 subscribers, so go figure.
No, it's the bat reps, which maybe we'll do once again in the future. It's definitely not the podcast.
There's 1,000 subscribers, and not even one of them for some reason.
This was the first channel I subscribed to. Fun fact.
What, Lord of the Rings or Warhammer specific, or just
first
in general?
Channel, full stop.
Lordy.
I know. I never subscribe to anything for reasons that only make sense to me. And I subscribed to this specifically because the number of subscribers is low enough that I was trying to pump it up. So
does that mean you've unsubscribed now that we're doing well?
Yeah.
Relatively.
So that I can be the 2,000th subscriber or 3,000th or whatever.
There is a special prize if you're the 2,000th subscriber, Dave.
Maybe I'll wait for it.
Handshake. We know we're doing well when we get Jakob's subscription.
Yeah.
I'm not even under the name of Jakob. Or James, for the matter.
Right. Let's move on to our first and most prestigious, maybe, tournament of the weekend. It is of Dice and Men. a GBHL 100 hosted by 7th City and the fantastic Will Champion. 30 players duked it out over 6 rounds. Dave, can you explain what mightily fortified might mean?
Yeah, so basically with this tournament, Will offered, if you were to choose to play a pure army, so a single faction, no alliances, you could give your leader either, you had to choose this at the start of the tournament. I erroneously thought you got to choose at the start of every game, and I was quite excited by it. And then Will clarified, you choose one of the bonuses at the start of the tournament, and I was a bit less interested. You either get Mighty Hero or your leader is permanently under the effect of Channeled Fortify Spirit, so it's sort of like Glorfindel, but better. And looking at that, I immediately thought, that's going to inspire people to take some big heroes. But also, there are some legendary legions that I felt were probably still better than that bonus. For example, I ran the Assault Mothorian, and a couple of people ran the Host of the Dragon Emperor because Mighty Hero isn't that big of a deal if you have Rutabi.
So the most sporting at the tournament was Jim Smith, and best painted was Dave Sweeting. So do we have photos? We don't have any photos, but we do have a video. So hopefully you guys will see this through the wonders of technology.
Dave has this astonishingly gorgeous Moria that he uses a lot, including spoilers, but it includes a gorgeous purple Balrog, and it's a very, very clean paint job.
Why is this not working?
And in my opinion, the best thing about it is the fact that he has managed to make GW giant spiders look like actual spiders rather than weird little toys, which is incredible. This is not doing it justice, but you may be able to see on the back of that Balrog there's some phenomenal. Also, Druzak has a LED lit up cauldron, which is pretty cool. But there's phenomenal edge highlighting, fantastic purple coloration. The lighting effect on the back of the Balrog is fantastic. It's a really, really nice.
It looks really cool.
This is not the first time he's won this. He's been gradually adding to this for years and years, and it's always a pleasure to look at it. So the fact that it's won so many best painters in so many years is telling, because it's like you can't get tired of it. I think I voted for this, and I don't like to vote for things that I voted for many times.
Very nice.
Great job, Dave.
Congratulations, Dave.
He's a good guy.
Right, let's look at our third place list. Is Mr. Vince Wong with his first ever GBHL 100 podium. Jakob, do you want to run us through this list?
Yes. So this list is led by Gil-galad, who has a horse, but he's Chad enough not to have a shield. And I don't know if Vince chose Mighty Hero or Fortify Spirit. Mighty Hero. Yeah, that makes sense. So Gil-galad leads 9 high elf warriors with shields, 6 King's Guards with spears and bows, and a banner, and 2 more elves with spears and shields. And he has Círdan, Aristor, and high elf captain with horse and lance, and no shield again. Although this time it makes a bit more sense. And overall 1 Rivendell Knight and some elves. Well, I suppose it's 1/3 bows. 34 models in total. 10 bows with Gil-galad. And Mighty Hero, that's an interesting option.
Yeah, I mean, he basically said that Gil-galad kind of hard carried his army, basically. He said Gil-galad was a beast. I mean, because you've got the little toolbox, you've got Círdan and the captain. I'm a bit surprised to see him go for 4 heroes, especially with Mighty Hero, but I think maybe he wanted to have... I mean, Aristor just sort of holds the line quite well, and you can throw him into big, scary things so that Gil-galad can go and absolutely munch Troop. He said after his first game, Gil-galad basically didn't put a foot wrong, and basically he lived by the Gil-galad and died by the Gil-galad, which is to say, in the game he lost, it was because Gil-galad absolutely stacked it, which is often the case with lists like this. And then in every other game he didn't, and fair play to him. I think it's a pretty cool list. I think I probably would have enjoyed playing this with what I used, but didn't get to. And he did a good job. There was quite a lot of Balrogs. There was more Balrogs, I think, than I've ever seen at GBHL 100. And as someone quite eloquently pointed out, I think it was Greg Wiggett, mentioned that the chances of a Balrog getting a 6 when you add Mighty Hero into the mix goes from like a 52% chance to get a 6 and 4 to like an 85% chance to get a 5+, essentially, which massively improves the Balrog's ability to perform.
And it still wasn't enough to make this list good.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, like Gilgalad was one of the obvious candidates for a Mighty Hero. Or, to be fair, the second bonus would also be good, but then I looked at the list for this tournament, Longshanks, I saw that most players thought that there will be a lot of fortified spirits, so they didn't take a lot of magic, and then it turned out there was very little fortified spirits.
Yeah.
So just Mighty Heroes run around.
There was a fair amount of, like, I think that I don't think there were any Witch Kings, which is very rare for a tournament like this. I don't remember seeing one anyway. If there was, there might have been one as part of a Barad-dur, but there was a Sauron and 2 Ring Wraiths list kicking around. There was a couple of Saurons. Obviously, Sauron is another fancy choice.
Right. Shall we move on to our second place list?
Sure. Yeah.
It is, of course, Mr. Stephen Denby coming in second with the Dragon Emperor.
In short, Big Banner good.
Hello, Stephen. What are you
Hello.
doing?
I'm tuning in from a wedding.
Oh, good job. Well done.
Stephen
Dedication.
Yeah, this is dedication to the podcast. In short, Big Banner good. Mighty Hero, counter it with Master of Battle. Fortify Spirit, well, you can tremor the model next to it and affect them, according to Will's ruling. So yeah, Big Banner good. I'll Stephen out.
Oh, he's gone. All right, well, I'll run through this one then, I guess.
Thank you for that insightful.
He's gone for the 4-hero option, which is Dragon Emperor, Rutabi, Brogir, and an Easterling Captain with Shield. He stacked Dragon Emperor's Warband with Black Dragon Pikes because they're for free, because this is the Legendary Legion, and so he has not taken Mighty Hero or Fortify Spirit, because as he mentioned before he ran away, Rutabi has Master of Battle, which gives you something to counter your opponent having infinite might. The Emperor also comes with
resistant to magic.
Resistant to magic. So you could theoretically build this out of the Legion, but you'd then lose essentially 36 points worth of Black Dragon upgrades compared to Mighty Hero and the Emperor. And he figured that the Easterling Captain was a better choice because it gives you more play in certain scenarios. And in fact, that Captain choice, I think, won him the game round 5 at Seize the Prize. Seize the Prize is being able to go 12 with your whole block is very valuable. So, as we know, so yeah,
goes to show the Dragon Emperor is so good. It's better than pure lists with Mighty Hero.
Well, I think it is good, but also I think other lists that I think is more like this was more like a kind of a meta call in the sense that it's you're taking this to counter the fact that other people are going to take more one-dimensional lists with Mighty Hero, and you're like, right, well, I can throw in a big block of things and then have Mighty Hero of my own, essentially with the Master of Battle. There was a few Goth mods around where I think people were using that same logic.
And yeah, exactly. In Rutabi with Master of Battle, she can help with denying his Mighty Heroes. To be fair, when I played the Dragon Emperor's Legion, I would always consider 4 extra models, which is essentially what 36 points is, more valuable than Mighty Hero on the Emperor, since the Emperor, a lot of times I just call heroic moves with the Emperor and he stands behind the line, since he doesn't have a whole lot to do.
This list specifically does not really need either of those bonuses, and I think something Steve and I talked about before the tournament. I think it's a really solid list, and if people are trying to take, even with Mighty Hero, people trying to make single factions work is just going to create armies that are worse than this on the tabletop. This army is just going to beat up on those because,
we can ask a general comment. We can ask a general comment. See, compared to I'll answer your question after this, but we've had the tournament a few months ago, which was City of Steel, which also offered bonuses for having a single faction. But there it was a free 6-inch banner and the extra effect, which some of those were really good. And I think there was maybe like one person who didn't go for a single faction. So we can now see that the value of of a legion over a legion or an alliance over a single faction is somewhere between those two things. And here it wasn't enough to persuade everyone to go for a single faction,
I mean,
which
to be fair,
is fine.
only 3 people didn't go for a single faction. I would want to point out. John was halfway through asking, I think, what do you think? If you don't, I mean, I suppose, but what would be your immediate thought of a single faction that can compete as a single faction? Because the list that won, was probably one of the ones that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I was in the situation that I knew for a few months that I'm not going to go for this tournament. To be fair, since when it was announced, so I didn't think much. I would probably just go for Sauron with Mighty Hero, because this is just the single strongest model in the game. But out of factions, yeah, there's be fair, were the lists that won. I'm not sure if it would be the one I'd think about. I agree with some choices like Gilgalad, Saurons, LSRs, but I would also probably think about trying to counter this, go for something that's not a single faction, because this isn't a bonus. If I could choose before every game, then this would be far more appealing. But otherwise,
that's what I thought as well. Yeah,
it's like I have a very strong hero who gets shut down by magic, or I get a hero who is very resistant to magic, but there is no magic against me in 4 out of 6 games, and this is just a useless bonus, while I have less freedom of choice when it comes to list building.
So true. So with that in mind, John, why don't we reveal the winning list?
The winning list was a name who's appeared on this show quite a lot recently. It was Mr. Ben Haslam. He took 42 of your finest Isengard models, led by a mightily heroic Lurtz, leading 2 Uruk-hai demolition teams, 1 Crebain, 7 Uruk-hai warriors with pike, and 1 Uruk-hai warrior with a banner. Gorolf with 6 warriors with crossbow, 6 with pike. Vrasku, 6 with crossbow, 3 with pike, and an Isengard assault ballista, as my voice slowly gives out there.
Yeah, so we haven't really seen Isengard topping things at 800,
except a week earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it played a lot at 700 with 1 bomb and 1 ballista, and Jake, who won last week in Scotland with essentially this exact list. It's slightly different. He has 1 more model and some orcs and a second Crebain. He's wanted a second Crebain, and whereas Ben decided he wanted to have purely Uruks, yeah. And the result, I mean, this is if you can't see, it's got 2 demolition teams, which means 2 bombs. It means 6 warriors with 6 warriors with flaming brands, including 2 berserkers that could possibly set bombs off, as we mentioned last week. And this version, I mean, Jake actually ran basically the same list this week as well, with the Mighty Hero Alerts allows for you to consistently call marches when you're in a position where you could go forward, but you might not, especially when you're losing priority. It forces your opponent to make awkward decisions, and then it gives you basically the full ability to either march up and suddenly close the gap, or just stand still, and your opponent doesn't know whether you're coming or going. Because Lurtz has an excellent collection of heroics. Basically, having march and strike really helps him out a lot here. And the special rule, his arriving wherever he wants or not coming on the board at all. Special rule for Maelstrom is fantastic, especially with bombs. It means that your opponent is basically forced, if they go first, they're forced to play an extremely defensive game where they spend a lot of might. And in fact, Stephen and Ben played in the final game, and that is exactly what happened. Stephen went first, and his Maelstrom rolls were poor, and he was basically forced to spend several turns leaving models, spreading models out along the back of the board in an awkward fashion, so that Ben couldn't just show up with alerts and blow up half his army. Because a list with basically, this is a smart choice for a tournament like this, because people are incentivized to take giant monsters like the Balrog, or giant monsters like Sauron that can get immediately hobbled by a demolition team, let alone 2 demolition teams. So yeah, it's nasty. And then while your opponent is trying to make the decision if they want to close the gap to face the 2 bombs, you then spend the entire time blasting them with crossbows and a ballista. Single ballista, some people might argue for 2 or even 3 at 800, but I mean, a single ballista is enough to force scary monsters to come to you, and then you have the freedom to respond to that while calling free marches into, to reposition. It's a nasty list. I played against Ben in round 4, Divide and Conquer, and I just couldn't get the dice rolls, the shooting, using my Assault Lothlorien. I couldn't shoot well enough to threaten him. In fact, he actually did something quite annoying. From my perspective, it was annoying, where he basically spent the whole game dragging his ballista, using it to cover the side of his pike block, so that I couldn't get a spider flank off. It's quite annoying, actually. So yeah, he did well. Him and Jake actually played as well in the second round, the 2 Isengard double bomb lists, but they got a 0-0 draw because I think they just opted not to play it because it was a double bomb, double ballista.
Yeah.
No one wanted to shoot dice at each other. Yeah. So, okay, figure. Yeah, well done, Ben. I think he got 2 third places and a first, including one at Ardacon in the last 300s. He's
running hot.
Done well. Yeah, he's rolling good.
How would you mitigate a list like this?
I mean, I think it's a bad example in a way because I lost to him, but sort of Lothlorien is good into a list like this because you have everything is deferred, spread out. You don't have any great targets for the bomb, at least not accessible ones. Like if he blows up a line of goblins, it's like, well, even just the bomb and 3 Uruk-hai that get blown up is probably going to be worth the same as the 3 orcs and 2 goblins you killed, Like numbers and horde stuff, this list doesn't like. It also doesn't really like the Goblin King. Goblin King is too blubbery for a bomb, although depending on the role, I suppose. I think, yeah, I don't know. This is like a solid battle line, but it's also 42 models at 800 for a list that doesn't actually have a seriously big beat stick. Is actually, it's not loads. Like it's a solid and dependable battle line. They're elites, but also bombs can only be set off if you have multiple opponent targets. So big scary heroes going by themselves can sometimes be hard for lists like this to deal with because you can't detonate the bomb if it's just, say, Guahir flies in. I mean, you wouldn't really want to do that, but if Guahir flew in and fought them, you can't set off the bomb. Or even a Smaug or something. Although that's, I suppose, what the ballista's for. But anyway, it's not... It doesn't like big, scary, spread-out hordes that can shoot well, like a Assault on Lothlorien, for example.
Congratulations, Benny H. Let's have a look at our second tournament of the weekend that we're covering. It is the Four Maker Fellowship GBHL 90 team event held at Bourne and Brum in Walsall by the fantastic Dale Groves. 12 four-man teams battled out across 6 rounds. Points-wise, it was 800 points, and Best Painted was won by Timmy Clues, Most Sorting won by Rob Sargent, and we've got some... Oh, I don't have photos of Timmy Clues' army. I will edit them in here. Wow. It's a really nice looking Eastling army, Dragon Emperor. Very cool display board. Yeah, it's nice.
Well,
what was that, Dave?
I'd say, were you mad that you didn't win the specifying? They're most painted.
Always salty. Since the gauntlet's been thrown, I've I've actually
You
not
need to
won
win
one
it.
since the gauntlet's been thrown. Yeah, the pressure's getting to me. Let's look at any heroics went to this tournament. We lost significantly in one round to the eventual winners. I think the rest of our rounds were all fairly close. We did end up in second place overall. So any heroics is the most successful team in the GBHL with a second place and a first place. I think Guardians of Distant Lands only have one first place team related thing. So that logic flies, doesn't it, Dave?
Not quite. That's not cogent. I'll let you off.
But we've got a bit of spice. Jakob alluded to it earlier, but the first list we're covering was Team Cricket's captain Joseph Harley bringing Sauron. So he's brought 38 Barad-dur models, 3 bows. The Dark Lord Sauron leading an orc with banner and shield, 2 orc trackers, 1 warg rider with shield, 10 black nuns, 10 orc warriors with shield and spear. And he's got a ring wraith with 2 10-2, leading an orc tracker, 5 more orcs with shield and spear, 5 black nuns, and 1 warg rider with shield. I lost to this with my Vanquishers.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
How did you manage that?
We were playing Divide. Was it Divide and Conquer? Or was it? Yeah, it was Divide and Conquer. Joe played very smartly and just completely spread his entire army out, stayed far away from the middle, except for Sauron, who kind of marched in. I killed, I think, 17 orcs and basically 17 warriors. Got Sauron down to a wound, but because he wouldn't engage, I kind of chased down what I could, but then just wasn't able to kill Sauron to make it a draw in the middle. Lost. Played it really well.
Well, that's good. Glad to hear it.
Is this how you would build Barad-dur at 800, Jakob?
So I definitely agree with Black Dominarians, supported by orcs with shield and spears. Yeah, the shields won't make sense. Here, Ring Wraith. Well, there are 2 options. You can go for something like a captain and taskmaster, 2 captains, which gives you a bit more might, but no second caster. Or the Ring Wraith. I would probably leave him at 1 fate rather than 2 fate, but this is very, very, very small changes. I'd probably go for 2 captains and a few more models. Maybe try to make it a bit leaner, but overall, this is the kind of way. And I really like Barad-dur, although last time I played it was 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago. Maybe next edition.
Very nice.
Well, this one is not going away, hopefully.
No, Sauron's. They'd be pretty bold to chuck Sauron into Legends, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean,
but you never know.
He's a bit of a legend, from the past. Not been relevant for a while.
Well, the one type of a troop here might be in danger of extinction.
Yeah. I think Numenorian's days are numbered.
Well, I mean, it might go, but it's probably going to get nerfed pretty bad.
Yeah.
Or it might end up in some weird places like Umbar only.
The next list is the only list to appear in both the first and second place team. Any guess what it might be?
No, I refuse to guess.
And these are the winners, or?
These are the winners, yeah. Team Cricket won the event.
Because you're usually going the other way around. You're confusing me, John.
We're just looking at the 4 winning lists for this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use this information. Well, based on the fact that I saw Lurtz earlier, I wonder if it's that.
It is not Lurtz. Lurtz was, of course, in the thumbnail because Benny H won. It was everyone's favourite list to play against, Vanquishers of the Necromancer.
Oh my god.
Who wants the arduous task of reading through this one?
It's Saruman the White. They've not taken any upgrades for him because you're not allowed to take any upgrades. Gandalf the Grey, Radagast the Brown, Elrond with heavy armor, which is the only upgrade in the whole thing, apart from Radagast's Slay.
It's not an upgrade since he has to take it.
Does he have to take it?
Yes.
Oh, I guess I've been misled by the fact that it's always in a separate line on A Tables of Admiral for some reason. And then Galadriel, Lady of Light, rounding out the squad.
And he has to take it in the Vanquishers. Like normally he can go without, but in the Vanquishers it's a mandatory option.
He has come with the controversial choice of listing Elrond ahead of Radagast.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you start with the wizards and then... But I guess they've gone with the mandatory characters first, which I guess kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So this tournament was after pairings. You could then veto which mission you played within a pool. Well, so that was a help for both Sauron and Vanquishers.
They just they have bad scenarios. Was it veto within pools or not?
Yeah, within pools.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Vanks are just good. They have, especially when you can pick their matchups, you can avoid some of their bad matchups, or you can sort of pick and choose a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the magical bombardment can be quite hard to deal with at 800. It's one of those games where you have to think about things really differently. If you're facing up against it, you have to really think about the mission at all times. Because if you get sucked into trying to kill these guys, it's not worth it. They tend to just tank it, thanks to Radagast and Elrond. Yeah, they're very, very durable, and fate can come back and everything, and it's all just a scary disaster.
What do you think about Vanks as part of a 6-man team, like we took to the team event last year?
Well, I think they're okay. I do think they kind of limit what you can take in the other two good side lists. I think you have to consider the fact that if you think everyone's going to have a Sultan Lothlorien like we did at the Nations Cup, these guys don't really like a Sultan Lothlorien. I think it's a very good matchup into them. Well, because it's super. The main thing is these guys are unlike the Black Riders. These guys don't have loads of sap wills, so you can keep your Furies up and then target. Once you can reliably tag them, it becomes a much harder prospect for them to run rampant, I think. But I mean, also a fully D4 army means that these guys will absolutely flatten them if they get the opportunity. So yeah, there are pros and cons. I don't think they're that good in the 6-team format. I think they're better in the 4-team format where you can play anyone, personally.
Yeah, especially with veto.
Yes.
Well, we've seen Sauron, we've seen Vanquishers. How about a bit of a take-all-comer list that we know is good? Dan Garside has brought Barad-dur. He's got the Witch King with Crown of Morgul, Horse, 3/16/3, 8 Nums, 7 Morannons, and a Tracker. Mouth of Sauron on Armoured Horse with 6 Nums, 5 Morannons. Then Kardush is his kind of third Mordor hero of choice, 4 Black Nums, 3 Morannons, 4 Trackers. And Sully leads 3 Serpent Riders and a Haradrim Raider with Spear and Bow.
Yeah, I don't like this version of this build.
I've never seen so many Black Numenorians in my life.
Yeah, that's 18 Black Numenorians to the point where he has. I mean, he's got 2 more. So, he's got 3 more than he does than he has Renan's with Spear and Shield, and 5 Trackers, which you're going to have to use for Kardush. But also, Kardush, one of his best features is the fact that he's a Fury user who can't be stopped from doing it, because you can claim using his shadow powers. He can reclaim orcs, which you normally want to do cheapo, crappy orcs like Trackers, but when you don't have that many, there's a lot of Morannons you don't want to spend Morannon orcs to power up Kardush. But also, Fury is distinctly less valuable when you have a front line of Black Numenorians, especially in a pure list where you get the Courage 5. And that's a very big Witch King. He's got he's got a lot of extra stuff on him. 6 will, 16 will, and 3 fate is a lot in a Barad-dur list where you can make it extremely efficient. I think I'd have a few more trackers, a few less Black Numenorians to save points, make the Witch King smaller, and if you can expand that Cardouche into a Shadow Lord, that would vastly increase the power of this list.
So you often talk about, I know in our private conversations, about the number of Black Numenorians that are needed. Could you just expand on what you think the optimal number is and why that number?
I think
both of you guys.
Personally, I think more than 15 is excessive in any point size. And I think 11 or 12 is acceptable numbers as long as you have tools to back it up. If you just want to have a massive battle line, that makes sense. You can make that work with a Suladan. But if you want to have a list that solves problems and attacks with tools, I think spending that many points on 18 Black Numenorians feels crazy. Because part of the reason you take 18 is to protect yourself from shooting. So if you lose a few, you've still got loads. But then you can also protect yourself from shooting by running like 13 of them and having the Shadow Lord instead. You can still get the numbers. That's my take.
My take is I'm always against taking more than 14 of them. It might be because I only have 14 of them, but also it's around those numbers. Usually depends on the points and so on. 10 to 11 to 14. The Black Numenorians definitely benefit from being the sort of only frontline type, because then their enemy can't just pick their heroes and higher courage troops to go to Black Numenorians while everyone else piles on orcs. This is one of the best aspects of Black Numenorians, that when you lose priority, you end up fighting considerably less than you would otherwise. But generally, the numbers that would fit around the 6-inch banner is the way to go. So about 14, and I definitely also just change Kardush to a better hero, or maybe even like a combat hero, such as even Goroth, who isn't the greatest hero. I think he'd be better in this list, and I'd rather have him than Kardush.
Interesting, useful chat for anyone who's thinking of hopping on the bandwagon, or who may have already hopped on the bandwagon. Our final list in the winning team cricket is B Brown 115's Army of Thor Iron Hills Alliance. He has Granddaddy Thor with 12 Grim Hammers, upgraded to Guardians of the King, 4 Warriors of Erebor with Shield and Spear, Thrain, 12 Warriors of Erebor with Shield and Spear, 3 Warriors with Shield, and Dane Ironfoot on his piggy, leading 2 Iron Hills Dwarfs with Spear, 1 Dwarf with Crossbow and Spear, 1 Dwarf with just a Crossbow, and a single Iron Hills Goat Rider. Here's the anvil.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have a banner, which will be annoying. But with veto, I suppose that doesn't matter.
Yeah, he gets the banner effect from Thor, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't think those crossbows are going to do very much personally, but some people like to have something that you can put on back objectives. But two crossbows isn't going to do anything, especially in good.
I think 2 crossbows are good. I disagree. Looking at what my random trackers sometimes do, 2 crossbows, I'll fine. And to be fair, I'd rather have them than those 2 Iron Hills with spears. Generally, 1 Goat Rider makes sense. There is an argument to go for 2.
I think I'd maybe because he's got an odd break point right now. I'd consider turning those 2 Iron Hills with spear into another goat, and then spending the extra points on having a couple more Guardians of the King, just for you want to kind of max those guys out, or even just a couple more spears on the Warriors of Erebor that don't have them. You want to make sure you got plenty of spears.
Yes, I think that about 15 Grim Hammers would be nice, and then giving spears to as many other models as possible. Losing 1 model for it is fine. But this is all. I think this is something we've seen in those other 2 lists of this team, that they have good ideas, but maybe on those micromanagement level, those lists could be further tweaked a bit.
Yeah.
It's a solid choice. This it's fine.
Yeah. What do you think about the combo of the 4 lists?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the obvious thing holding it back is making the Barad-dur list better. I think just having a second Wraith in there would be so much better, because then you've got one list that can theoretically be play into almost anything and cause it problems, and then you've got this list should be able to at least try and deny leader VPs. This goes well into stuff like Vanquishers as well, because spam D7, they don't like that because they don't have anything apart from Gandalf that can do well into it. And then stuff like, I mean, I like the setup. Like if as Jakob said, if you put the list up a bit, although they've got a lot of spellcasters. It's got every list apart from this one has multiple.
Yeah.
Definitely thinking how this works as a team. It would take me a few hours to think through it, and it's difficult to say at the moment. But I could see working with those lists in a team event, so I'm not surprised that they won. Well done to them.
Cool. Right. Before we move on to everyone's favourite section, let's look at my favourite section of the pod, the stats. They are almost entirely unchanged from last week. The only difference being Dragon Emperor and Isengard edge ever closer to taking up Mordor's crown. For anyone who didn't listen last week or hasn't been following along with the podcast, Mordor is in the lead with 8 GBHL 100 podiums. Dragon Emperor and Isengard are tied second on 6th. Then we've got Serpent Horde bringing 4 podiums to the table. Rise of Theoden on 4, Angmar, AOL, and the Spider Queen with 3 podiums. And then Rivendell, Arnor, Lothlorien, Goblin Town, Fellowship, Misty Mountains, Halls of Thranduil, Survivors of Lake Town, all with 2 GBHL 100 podiums and a smattering of lists on 1. Jakob, what are your thoughts on this graph? Any surprises?
Yeah, so if you asked me a year ago, I'd be very surprised with Isengard being up there, but I can see it working now. This Uruk spam, I've considered it not to be that good for a while, but I guess meta came back to the point where they're viable, and I've lost to the 2-bomb list a week before, so yeah, I can see it working, and Mordor on top. No surprise at all. I'm just looking forward to a entirely new table and new stats, new edition. That will be interesting.
I'm looking forward to covering those stats. Interestingly, Isengard has the most GBHL 100 wins with 4. So maybe that's the secret sauce if you want to win 100.
Well, it also may be that is a favoured army list of a certain player who is very good.
I don't play Isengard, Dave.
I also don't, but I'm not very good.
Oh, Jakob, you're too humble.
5th place.
Right. Let's have a look-see at the viewer comments. Meet Millsy, who famously won the double last weekend, says, the age of Sage has come. I'll take my D12, please. 1 step closer to best newcomer. As always, great video. And then we've got a few comments from
if you
Matt
missed
Light.
it, this guy, Miles Sage, won 2 GBHL 90s in the same weekend, which Matt was very excited about on last week's podcast. It was fun. And
he was at the team tournament, but unfortunately couldn't make it 3 from 3.
His teammates were holding him back. I have no idea who his teammates are, so that could be nonsense.
Masterball UK says, Matt, told you I'd see you on the telly. It was nice to meet you. P.S. Dave, your Rohan list was a lot more fun. I went too troop heavy and ended up getting bottlenecked by having guys standing around unable to get it. Definitely going hero heavy next time.
I think especially at 500 points, like a hero heavy Rohan. It may not win. It won't win everything, but like there will be plenty of lists that just can't hold up against it at all, and then you just and then whatever happens, your games will be over quickly. That's the good thing about it. Smash and grab, lose fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. What can I say? That's the way. That's the way of the 500 points 8 model setup.
We've got a few longer comments now. Carson Howard tells us that the Golems gamers kidnapped him and said he commenting too much on any heroics videos and needed a timeout. How they got me all the way in Arkansas is beyond me, but before they knocked me out, I screamed chitter chitter like Mel Gibson in Braveheart. My wife is nesting super hard as we are now 1 month away from our second daughter joining us in the world. So our honey to-do list has been top of my things to do, and I've very rudely cut it off. The rest of what you say. Yeah. Let me get it up quickly. Talk amongst yourselves.
Congratulations, by the way, Carlson. I assume your daughter will be named Stephen after Stephen Denby, and his my second place.
Please, for her sake, don't do that.
You could convince the missus to call her Ritavi.
Yeah. Oh, I've got the rest of the comment. One change I'd like to see is Osgiliath Veteran be a 1-point upgrade you can take on normal warriors. That way you get the +1 fight when within 6 inches of Gondor's favourite brother. He says brothers, but we know he's only talking about Boromir. As well as an additional courage +1 just added to the model. The best part is not spending an ungodly amount of money on 3 models at a time.
Well, it's a bit of a shame that they lose Shield Wall.
Did any of you see any Osgiliath Veteran this edition? Or to be fair,
yes.
ever?
I almost lost to an Osgiliath Veteran army at Ardacon.
Was it? Okay, fine.
I'd love to see them be actually halfway decent in a way that isn't just fight value as well, because fight value is like Minas Tirith have that plentifully. Like if you could somehow make all of the Minas Tirith elites, so Osgiliath vets, if you could make Osgiliath vets, warriors of Minas Tirith, and Citadel Guard or Fountain Court viable in different ways, that would be a miracle. But it would be amazing if you could do that, because at the moment the list is kind of dominated by Rangers and Fountain Court.
Yes, they're similar.
Yeah, making them stronger rather than better at fighting would be nice. It'd at least be a unique niche.
Brandon Kirk. Oh, sorry, Dave.
That's all right.
Brandon Kirk tells us Black Numenorians are in the books, at least the Morgul Knights are in Return of the King when the Witch King leaves Minas Morgul on horseback. But before them went a great cavalry of horsemen moving like ordered shadows, and at their head was one greater than all the rest, a rider all in black, save that on his hooded head he wore a helm like a crown that flickered in perilous light.
Yeah, see, that at least, the problem is, like, that's cool and thematic and very Tolkien, but then if you think, like, a line of Black Numenorians backed up by scrub orcs just isn't, you know.
Maybe Morgul Knight will stay. I'm fine with that.
I'd like Morgul Knights to be good, even. That'd be cool.
Yeah, they're really nice models. Desmond Dentresi gives us a nice long comment that we'll paraphrase, talking about how all First Age elves should be, or the heroes at least, should be resistant to magic for surviving Morgoth. Elrond deserves more will. Gildor should get extra might points. Glorf is always going to be put in a box in some way. To give others some play, he should be independent but have mighty hero and a cost increase, as he's a guide to other leaders. Then he'd be very niche but very powerful. Gothmog as a Black Nun would have been sweet, but that's not one of the movies, and they'll always hold more sway.
Yeah.
Hoping for intelligence to end up doing something. Balrogs used to shapeshift so they could have wings, but Durin's Bane doesn't have wings. How controversial.
I was about to say I was going to say that he controversially, confidently states that Durin's Bane has wings, which also he doesn't have wings. Which is very much not clear based on the text, and is in fact a furious point of debate in Tolkien scholarship.
Yeah, and then we have more debate on the old piercing again, which we won't cover, but we do appreciate the long comment and taking the time to.
Isn't widely held. Win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Right. Our next and final comment is from enemy of the show. I know, Daniel Lewis Fitness. We like Daniel Lewis Fitness. But then we'll get on to the other person's comment. Daniel Lewis Fitness says, would love to know what Dave's 500-point Rise of Theoden list is. He's
I
just
can tell
started
you that.
painting some Royal Guard this week.
Off the top of my head, it is Theoden with all the trimmings, which is really just a shield, because I think everything else is fine.
You have to take everything.
Spears. Oh, there you go. Dunhelm with throwing spears. Aemir with everything. Oh, no throwing spears, sorry. Gamling with the banner. And then a captain with no upgrades other than the horse. So the most basic version of the captain you can take in the Legion. And then 2 Royal Guard with no upgrades. It's 500 exactly. I suppose if you really wanted, you could give your throwing spear to Aemir, but I consider it slightly more optimal on Durnhelm, because if you do find yourself trying to skirmish and you have to spend a might point, just 1 might point, you can use Mary's might point and then give it back with Gambling without having to commit a might point that you can't then immediately regenerate. It doesn't really make much difference. In my experience, it doesn't add anything, but you got 5 points to spare. So if you wanted, you could give both the warriors throwing spears instead and have 1 point under and cry every time you looked at your list on Tabletop Admiral.
You can give one of them
8
an
models.
axe.
All that, yeah, that's the handsome thing to do. Yeah, it's 8 models and it goes bang. I played against 80 ruffians with it at a tournament, and that was good fun. Just absolute slaughter.
Davey Gravy, the GBHL's leading investigative reporter, is always on the job and asks, what are GBHL winners' dice? Do players get them for winning GBHL events? And if so, how do I get mine for winning?
I mean, he knows full well what these are, but it's funny that you didn't win any in the year when we had them, so you missed out, Dave.
There are technically, I think there's apparently supposed to be some this year, but I'm the Southeast TO rep, and I have not had any dice to give out to people.
The only GBHL winning dice I got was for winning Luke's backyard tournament, which wasn't a tournament. Yeah, and I got an 8, even though I probably shouldn't have done. So,
Mitch Finn says, cheers to the shout out and thanks for the great game, Stephen. Mitch. Just reminding us of his name. But
it's good, lads.
Yeah, it's nice when we meet fans out in the wild. It was a pleasure of chatting with people at the team tournament this weekend.
Yeah, it's nice to meet people this weekend as well. Ripon as well. There's a couple of people I spoke to who watched the pod.
You're famous, Dave.
No, they mostly wanted to speak to Stephen.
And he's not even here this week.
Yeah, I know.
Except for rudely interrupting from his wedding. I think that was while the ceremony was going on. You could hear him saying, "I do" in the background.
Did you?
Right, our last comment of the evening from friend of the pod, Dirk, Free Run DJs. I think the game will be better for not having special strikes as they currently are, while the loss of piercing strike is sad. Is a price worth paying to get rid of feint? I would have preferred if they'd changed special strikes, but I think removing them is better than keeping them as is. This is going to be a running theme in our comments now, isn't it?
They're a bit granular. I think if you want to streamline the game, it's an obvious place to start. I remember when axes were everywhere in the old edition and they used to go up by D3. It would slow down battle line fights so much because every time you won or lost, you were like, oh, I roll a D3 and oh, my strength. You have to rethink about what you need to strike with and stuff. You know, like you could be either strength 4, 5, or 6, depending on what you roll, and you need different numbers. And it's like, that is fine, but also just extra dice rolls for every single fight slowed the game down, especially with axes being absolutely everywhere back then. So I think, in a sense, it streamlines the game. I do think the functionality of them is valuable, so I hope they have something to help combat that. But I think the idea of getting rid of them is smart.
Yeah. Right. That brings us to the end of our show. Once again, I know, we rattled through. It's what happens when Stephen isn't slowing us down.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It felt empty without Stephen.
Oh.
You filled the hole, Jakob. Right. Once again, check out our affiliate, 7 City Collectibles. buy your Lorcana from them, and if you have any money left over, buy some Warhammer.
Sell them your second-hand armies and buy whatever's new in meta in the new year.
That's what I do. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work out what to shift. But as always, like, comment, share, subscribe, stay handsome, and chitter chitter.
Always. Chitter chitter.
Chitter chitter.